Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2023 Ford Bronco Sport, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver. Before we do that though, let's just take a minute, check this out, and make sure it's going to be the best hitch for you. So for those of you that are wanting to pull a trailer around, use accessories, or even do a little bit of both, and you don't have a trailer hitch, this is going to be a good solution for you and help you accomplish those types of tasks. Compared to some of the other hitches available, they're all going to be very similar. Really the main difference is going to be the appearance of it, and even then, you know, not a whole lot of differences. They're all going to sit like this one and be completely hidden for the most part. Really, you're just going to be able to see the receiver tube opening, and the main difference between all of them is really going to be the finish. I personally like the eTrailer one the best. It has a matte black finish. I think it matches the plastic really well and looks more factory, at least in my opinion. The Curt hitch has a gloss black finish, so if that's what you're looking for, you can always go with that one. And then the Draw Tight's somewhere in the middle. It has more of a semi-gloss style. The hitch is going to have a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is a super common size, so a lot of stuff is going to work with it. It is going to use the standard 5/8 pin and clip. One doesn't come with the hitch. If you need one, not a huge deal. You can grab it here at eTrailer. Or a lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, they'll come with one. So something to look out for there. The safety chain openings are a loop style and large enough to allow us to use just about any size hook that our trailer might have on it. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have some pretty good numbers. It's going to have a maximum gross tongue weight rating of 525 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. So you should be able to use pretty much any size bike rack or cargo carrier that you'd want to, for example. And for the maximum gross trailer weight rating, that's going to be 3,500 pounds, or the amount of weight that is pulling on the hitch. So that is the weight of your trailer, plus anything you might have in or on it. One thing I do always like to recommend, it's always a good idea just to grab your Ford's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure that your Bronco Sport can handle that much weight safely. We'll go ahead, grab a couple measurements now, and these are going to help us figure out what type of accessories are going to work best. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be right at 16 inches. So more than enough ground clearance for your accessories, and if you plan on pulling a trailer, you can probably use a ball mount that has a straight shank, or maybe even one with a really slight rise, an inch, something like that. Probably work well in most scenarios. And then from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 3 inches, and you can use that to help figure out exactly if any of those folding style accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without making contact with your back bumper. Aside from that, you know, a hitch you really can't go wrong with. This would probably be my pick. I just like the way it looks the best. As far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad. You undo a couple of bolts, the exhaust comes down some to give you extra room to work. Put the hardware in the frame and bolt the hitch up. So it really shouldn't run into too many issues or take up a bunch of your time, but if you're installing this yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and get going on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our Bronco Sport, and the very first thing that we need to do is remove these 4 screws that run along this bottom edge. So we'll have a 7mm socket, work our way down to pull them all out. We are going to need to let the exhaust come down a little bit, give us more room to work. Prior to doing that though, I like to take a strap and just run it from side to side. That way we can kind of control how fast and how far we let the exhaust come down. On the bottom of our frame, you can see where the exhaust is going to be connected. So we're just going to have this 10mm fastener to pull out. The passenger side is going to be set up the same way, but over there you'll have a wire bundle, the little loop on it that goes over it. So you'll have a 10mm nut, you pull that off, and then you can pull this fastener out. So we grab our 10mm deep well. Remove that. I already did the other side. So the exhaust should drop down a little bit here. On the bottom of each frame rail, we're going to have this underbody panel that's connected to it with 2 push-pin style fasteners. And from this point on, whatever we do to one side of the vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side. So it'll be set up the same way. We'll get these out of our way here. So let's take a flathead screwdriver. You can pry underneath the head of the fastener. And you can get underneath the base, pull the whole thing out. This one's a little different. You can use a flathead if you want. These are in there somewhat tight though, so I like to use a trim tool. Just makes it a little easier. Pop it out, and then we're just gonna take that flap there, just gonna tuck it in like that. We'll go over our attachment points that we're gonna use now. So on each side of our vehicle, we're gonna have 3 openings. This one, and this one. And so that's where our hardware is going to drop through. And to get the hardware in the frame, we're going to be using this hole here on the side as an access hole. With that said, you'll have to get a spacer block in there and a carriage bolt. And you can get this stuff to fit without modifying this at all, but it's pretty tight. And instead of fighting it, I'm just going to enlarge this opening a little bit. It don't take much. You can use a hand file or something along those lines. I'm just going to use this bit, clear a little bit of material out, and make it a lot easier on us getting the bolts in the frame. So what I'm going to do now, you can take the coiled end of your fish wire, and I try to kind of eyeball the length and distance from our attachment point to the access hole and put a bend in it. Just makes it easier. And take the coiled end, we'll fish that up through our attachment point. And we'll get it to drop down of our access hole there. We'll take a spacer block, put that on a carriage bolt. And that carriage bolt is going to thread onto the pull wire. We'll feed that hardware up into the frame one at a time. And pull down until it drops into position. And I'm going to use that same technique and the same hardware combination for our 2 remaining attachment points there. Since we did enlarge this hole a little bit, we have some bare metal exposed, and just to help prevent any rust or corrosion issues, I'm going to take some paint and just put it over that bare metal there. We can trim out our fascia now according to the diagram and the instructions. More or less it looks like just this flat part around through here. Make sure you don't have anything important behind there, which you shouldn't, but it's good to check. We're wide open. This is pretty thick plastic. I like to use a multi-tool like this. Seems like it gives a good clean cut, but you can use a Dremel tool or heavy-duty pair of snips, whatever you got. So go ahead and get this opening made. Pop this little piece out. And if you want, you can come back with a utility knife or a file or something and clean up some of these rough edges. What our plan is here, when we get our hitch up into position, we're going to secure one nut on each side. All right, and we want to do the one that's closest to the front of our vehicle. And I say that because we've ran into in the past, when we go to put the hitch flat up, sometimes this opening isn't big enough. All right. Not cut up high enough. My thought is with this plastic, you can always come back and cut more out, but you can't add it. So that's our thought. We'll get the hitch up into position, and by doing it that way, we can hold it flat. If it clears, great. We'll completely bolt it down. If it's going to interfere, the hitch will be able to kind of hang a little bit, and we can cut a little more material out. If you can have someone give you a hand with this part, it makes it much easier. But we're going to take our pull wires and run them through the corresponding holes in the hitch, and I like to put a little bend in the end of it there because once you get it through the hole, it don't want to pull back out real easy. We're going to go up and over the exhaust, and then we're going to have to kind of pull on our fascia. And this is going to go in between the fascia and that metal heat shield. Definitely tight, so to get this stuff into place, get all of our hardware to drop through, we'll do what we talked about. We'll get a pull wire removed. We're going to take a flange nut. And get one started, hand tight on each side. After loosely getting the hitch in place, tried to push it up flat against the frame, and it did hit our fascia. So not a huge deal. I came back and trimmed more of it out, and I had to open it up quite a bit. Almost ran it to the top there of that indention. And with it like that, now we have adequate clearance, and it's not going to interfere with anything. We're able to get the rest of our hardware started now, and it's all the same, just the flange nuts. And you can slide the hitch a little bit from side to side, so make sure you center it, and we're in good shape. And just kind of a pointer too, if you're having a hard time getting the nut started on the bolt because the bolt wants to push up into the frame, one thing you can do is take a small flathead screwdriver, kind of apply some side pressure to it, and that'll keep that bolt steady, making it a lot more manageable to get the nut started. But with all the hardware in place and tight, we'll come back with a 3/4 inch socket and snug everything down. Now you want to make sure and come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in your instructions. Now we can come back and re-secure our exhaust the opposite way that we lowered it. As far as this underbody panel goes here, the hitch covers up those holes. And so what I'm going to do, there's a small hole in the fabric already. I'm just going to put that over that stud, and then that hole actually lines up there, so I'm just going to take one of the fasteners and pop that into position, and that will be sufficient to hold our panel in place. Make sure and come back and get the support strap removed from under the vehicle here. And the last thing to do, we put those 7mm head screws back in. Get these all tightened down. And we're in good shape. So with that done, that will finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver on our 2023 Ford Bronco Sport.